Hi, grant writing folks. Want to talk with you today about budgets. And some people love numbers, some people don't. But budgets are an incredibly important part of the grant writing process. I always tell people when they're budgeting to budget what it realistically costs to put in a piece of equipment or to deliver a program or to provide a service. You don't want to get very fancy. We're going to get a nice new car or whatever, or we're going to put in this really great, bathroom, or whatever it is. You don't want to pad the grant, but on the other hand, you don't want to get chintzy either and say, we're going to do it really cheaply and maybe they'll be impressed with us, because at both ends of those spectrums lie bad outcomes. Remember the first week of class, I told you about an organization that wrote a grant application that promises to provide complete services for AIDS victims over about a sixth of the square area of Texas for only, I won't talk about the dollar amount, but didn't have a single dollar in that grant for transportation. Disaster. Because they got the grant. Remember, the worst thing is not to get a grant. The worst thing is to get the grant and you can't do what you promised to. So they got the grant, and then they were stuck. They were legally obligated. They were on the hook to provide all these services for these people without any financial support for their single biggest expense, which was transportation. On the other end of the spectrum, if you have a program that costs $100,000 to run, generally, most organizations, people who are in the grant giving business have a sense of what things cost, what it takes to do things well, what it takes to do things effectively. And if you promise to give a $100,000 program for $40,000, you really kind of undermine the credibility of your organization. People are going to think, have they really thought it through? Do they know what's involved? Do they have the ability to provide these services? And the likelihood is just going to be that you won't get the grant in the first place. So you want to find an accurate medium to make sure you can do the service, you can provide the program, you can put in the piece of equipment that you want to do it as well. I always tell people that a budget is a moral document, that you put your money where your values are. And what do I mean by that? I'm going to give you a very quick example. I used to live in another town, and the school district said that it valued attendance. And every single school had a person in that school who called. If a child missed, they called home, they called the parent, they called work, and they said, hey, little Bobby, little Janie is in school today. Do you know what's going on? Well, she's sick. I'm sorry, I forgot to call in. Sometimes I dropped her off. I'm going to find out where she is and I'll get her there. And so, not surprisingly, that school had excellent attendance. We moved to another town, and the school district used robocallers. You would get a message. This is a message from the Joe Bob Independent School District. Your child may have missed one or more classes today. Please contact the school's attendance office. And at first I thought this was a joke, a prank call. I didn't know what was going on. But what they did was they said they valued attendance, but they gave the job. They put a computer program that cost a couple of $1,000s in charge of attendance. And not surprisingly, that school district did not have very good attendance district-wide. So that's just an example of how your money reflects your values. Now, I want you to think about our grant that we're doing right now. We're going to have a pretty simple budgeting process, but we're going to do some exercises that are going to take us beyond what we're going to do for our grant right now. But we have identified a need, a very large need in our community that deals with hunger, that deals with poverty, that deals with food insecurity, that deals with this complex series of factors that have created situations in which you have a large number of school-age children who are dependent upon school lunches for their regular food, and when they're not in school, they don't have a regular source of meals. So that's the need. The objective is going to be something like, we will reduce food insecurity through school-age children. I'm sorry, I apologize. The goal, the big grand statement, the big gesture, the goal is we're going to reduce food insecurity for school-age children. The objective is going to be something along the lines of, remember, it's measurable, it's time sensitive, so depending on what the food bank says, starting in, I don't know, April, or starting in September, or whenever they decide things start, we are going to increase the number of schools that are served by our backpack program, or we're going to reach an additional number of kids with this backpack program, or you might even say we're going to deliver this number of meals to food insecure children. But and then we're going to have a budget that explains how those $25,000 are going to be used. So you see how it works. You have the need. Poverty has created food insecurity. We have the objective. We want to reduce food insecurity among school-aged children. We have the goal. We want to reduce food insecurity among school-aged children. We have the objective. We are going to increase the number of schools that we serve and provide backpack programs to. And then the budget is going to demonstrate how each of these backpacks cost $3 a piece, and so how $25,000 is going to exponentially increase and provide more than $8,000 more additional 8,000 additional meals to these food insecure kids. So you see how all these elements work together, and it's why, and you see why the budget is important, because the budget really has to prove, these dollars are going to help these objectives happen. These objectives are going to fulfill this goal, and the goals are going to meet the need. It's a very important part of the process, and one that people often think is disconnected. But remember, your budget reflects your values. Now, the exercise I'm giving you to do in class, I don't expect anybody to get it perfectly. I don't expect anybody to do it right. There are a lot of different ways to do this particular exercise, but bear in mind that you want to think through as much as you can how you're going to run this museum for 1 year on $200,000. And I have some things that are explained in there. Remember, when you hire a person, it's not just their salary, it's their benefits. It's plus you've got to, in Texas, provide them with employment insurance and workman's comp. So pretty much, if a $50,000 employee is going to cost you maybe $65,000, $68,000 to employ, if you employ somebody part-time, I think it's 19 hours a week, you don't have to pay them benefits. Is that right? Is that ethical? Is it moral? On the other hand, you've got to have utilities, you got to have water and trash pickup, you got to have internet, you got to have phone service, you got to have materials to give kids, and you'll get a sense. I just really want you to dive in and try to see what you can do to make a program work on $200,000 a year, just to give you some exercise on how to do it. So dive in. You're welcome to work on budgets, and I look forward to seeing what you come up with. Thank you.